Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Networking Thursday. We're very glad you're with us today. It is August 11th, 2022. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just put your questions into the chat window. You're also welcome to put in your contact information so you can network with other people who are on the call today. For those on Facebook, please just enter your information in the comment field and we'll get those questions answered for you. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org. website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have them with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I'll tell you about our upcoming program at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Remember, when you are networking and your resume and your LinkedIn profile, they don't get you a job. Only how well you answer your questions, how well you practice your interviewing skills is what gets you a job. So if you'd like to have more information, just go to dallaspitcrew.com. Well, every session we have a different speaker talking about networking. We've had a bunch of different speakers over the last year and a half. We're going back, we're replaying some of the best ones we've had over the last year. Today, Don Nebhan is with us. He's going to talk about Networking 101. Don is an executive spanning over 20 years with Fortune 500 companies and later with small to mid-sized businesses. His focus draws on experience in operations, sales, classical marketing, distribution, franchising. He has been both in CPG, which is consumer packaging good, and business to business sectors, including food, publishing, healthcare, IT, nonprofits, and franchising. So Don's with us. You can talk about networking. This is a recorded session, so if you have any questions, please put your comments into the chat window and we will get those questions answered for you at the end of the session. So let me get Don up and running here.
All right, everyone. So we're going to get started. Today we're talking about networking. So I'm going to cover everything there is to cover about networking, but I encourage you, if you have questions, please feel free to put them into the chat box, like Jeff said, and I'll try to handle them as we move through things. I started with this networking presentation kind of from square one, talking about what are the definitions. So the definitions, they're pretty academic, as I found in dictionaries and everything. And it was kind of boring and they didn't really hit the mark for how I viewed networking. So I wrote my own definition and you can read through these if you like. They're all available online. My definition is it's the process of establishing, cultivating, and maintaining relationships to enhance the exchange of information and the development of contacts with mutual interests who can help each other personally and professionally long term. So networking, I emphasize relationships and long term because most of the jobs out there that you're going to get are going to last probably 2 to 4 years on average. I use 3 just to round it up, but you're going to be networking even while you're employed. You may not do it as aggressively and spend as much time doing it as you did when you were in transition. But I know when I was working, I was attending networking events and functions, mainly business functions and trade association things, but all networking events. And I tried to keep my list of contacts my network warm while I was employed, and I tried to keep it hot while I was in transition. So I encourage you to do the same. So networking, like I said, is it's about planting relations. It's not about adding contacts to your LinkedIn profile or your contact management system. The determinants in the value of a personal network are what you see here. This is a little bit dated. It's about 10 years old, from 2008, but the numbers still pretty much hold. I ask you not to get so involved in the exact percentage, but just in the trend that they represent. The level of the relationship determines the value of the network. So if you have 500 contacts in your network, but you really only know maybe 70 of them, in my mind, that 70 is the core. So the level of the relationship, how deep and strong the relationships are, determine the value of your network. So it's not about more contacts, it's about more relationships. When, as a job seeker, we should try to mirror what the employer does when hiring. So this is a hiring pyramid, and kind of the process. On the left-hand side, that's the employers. So when an employer has an opening, their first go-to is an internal promotion or an internal candidate. If they don't have that, they look for contacts through their existing staff. Hey, do you know anybody? Does so-and-so in your department looking to move into a different role? That sort of thing. And then if that doesn't work, then they move into networking, and they network in some of the same places that you should be networking, mainly trade associations, things like that, professional organizations. And through that, if they still haven't found the right candidate, they go to recruitment agencies, and from there to job boards. Unfortunately, job seekers tend to do it the opposite. They tend to go first to the job boards, and then to recruiters, and then they start their actual networking, which is through professional organizations and networking and contacting staff at the company that they are targeting. So what we need to do is, as job seekers, is flip that around and go more aggressively bottom up, just like the employer does. So the benefits of networking are, while you're unemployed, networking allows you to fill some of the gaps in that time, so that when you're interviewing, you can demonstrate that you're up to speed on business trends. You've been learning best practices and keeping that going. You want to help others while you're networking. Networking isn't about you, it's about everybody that you're contacting. And my experience has been that if you give, you get multiple times in return. So you want to help others as much as you are looking for help, at least. It enhances your visibility and opens your doors to new opportunities. It allows you to show your stuff and express your opinions, perspectives, and define your thought process more for the people you're networking with. Your network then turns into a resource. It generates positive influence, and it develops referrals for you. And most importantly, and that's why I put it in bold, develops what I call an army of advocates. If you think about it, you're doing your job search and you don't like networking, you tend to be reserved or an introvert or whatever, and you just don't like the networking thing. Think about it. If you have your 2 eyes and your 2 ears and you're out looking for work, you're going to see and be exposed to what your 2 eyes and your 2 ears bring forward. But if you have an army of advocates that you've established through your network, you've multiplied that by 10, 20, 100 times potentially. And it'll shorten your job search and your transition period. So I tend to be a data guy. When I started my job search years and years ago, I looked at everything that I had to do, and it was just like drinking from a fire hydrant. That's why a lot of what Jeff has done with Career DFW helps you, and he provides all kinds of resources that touch all of these things. But networking itself stood out and has always stood out as the primary way of getting your next job. Right here, in this report, it's saying networking is generating 74% of the jobs. I've seen it 60% and as high as 90%. So for the sake of argument, we'll say 75%, 80% of the jobs are found through networking. That's not to say that you're not going to get some off job boards and social media and recruiters, etc. But networking is what is going to be the one that is most apt or has the highest likelihood of helping you get to your next position. Now, 70 to 90%, like I said, of positions are filled through networking. Some people are very adept at networking. I learned to network by doing it a lot. And if you tend to be shy or introverted, you still got to get out there. You have to be, you've heard in many of these meetings that you're attending that you're now a salesperson. You're not an accountant or a financial person or an engineer or product manager. Everybody's in sales right now because you're selling yourself. You're selling your background and your skills. Doesn't mean you have to adopt the personality of a salesperson and be very flamboyant and outgoing, but you have to come off confident and you got to be able to express yourself. And we're going to go into some of that. Excuse me. The key thing is that if 75% of the jobs are had through networking, only 25% of job seekers actually spend time. I'm sorry, only 25% of job seekers invest 0 time networking. So by focusing on networking, you've already eliminated 25% of your competition for the next job. So I encourage you to, and I'm going to do a time breakout towards the end of the presentation to show you how I recommend you spend your time in job search and what role networking has in that. So another part of networking that is very important is referrals. Networking generates referrals and referrals generate results. 70% of positions that are out there are filled through connections within a company. In other words, an employee at a company brings in or recommends someone for a position within the company that they're already working for. And you think about it from the employer's perspective. As a sales guy, I came from a sales background, and my theory was you listen more than you talk, and you always put yourself in the position of the customer. In this case, your customer is the employer. So the employer's goals are to enhance the culture within their company. So their current employees know the culture, they know the employee, they know the employee's attitude and fit within the culture, and they're great employees. And so they want more of the same. So, in Spanish, there's a saying, dime con quien andas y te digo quién eres. Tell me who you run with, and I'll tell you who you are. So if you get from an employer's perspective, if you have an employee, a good employee that recommends someone, that recommendation is going to carry a lot of weight for you. So referrals are critical within a company. 70% of the positions fill through referrals. The kicker is only 7% of applicants are going after referrals within a company aggressively like they should. Only 7% coming through an internal referral. And even with 7%, yet 40%, the companies are hiring 40% of their employees through employee referrals. So I encourage you to reflect on who you know at what companies, and as you're networking, keep in mind your target companies and target roles, and look for individuals that are, in your estimation, sharp individuals that you meet while you're networking, and ask them where they work and who they work for. show some interest, because those referrals from folks like that are going to be very productive for you as far as ending your transition period. You want to network with a purpose before you even start your job search. And I do this in my personal branding thing and in a bunch of other I always tell people, before you start looking for a job, make a plan. This is a business. This is serious stuff. So write a business plan for yourself, a job search strategy with strategies and tactics on exactly how you're going to do it. And I spent probably 2 weeks putting a plan together before I even thought of putting a resume together to put out there. So you got to know what you want. You got to prepare. You've got to be aware of your personal brand as well. When you're networking, you are on display. You're being sold. Networking, in my mind, is advertising. It's the same as a consumer packaged good company buying an ad on TV or buying an ad on social media. Your personal brand is equivalent to a brand that a company has. So you want to treat it that way, and you want to reinforce that brand regularly. And when you network, you want to be very consistent. So branding while networking is a very important concept. We can talk more about that down the road if you like. You got to establish credibility. And it's not, when I say credibility, it's not just what you know, what your degree is, and how many acronyms in your discipline that you can throw out in a 30-second pitch. But credibility also is accounted for by how often you show up. There's networking events all over the cities. This is a networking event. Showing up to these events on a regular basis is how you establish relationships. You can't show up to an event this month and not show up again for 3 or 4 months and expect to have relationships that you thought you established 4 months ago to stick. You've got to be regular in attending, and you've got to be very good at follow-up and following up with meetings, as I say, after the meeting, the coffee, the lunch, whatever. Networking, you also have to establish trust. Trust and credibility add to your personal brand, and it allows the person you're networking with, it gives them confidence that when they're part of your army of advocates and they're representing you, that you're going to be who you appear to be with them, or have appeared to be with them, because they've met you many times and they get the same thing every time they meet you. Hopefully it's a positive thing, right? So credibility is critical. I'll tell you a little story. I had a friend of mine who was VP with AC Nielsen, big data company. And he called and he had a lady he wanted me to, he's singing her accolades. She was very good. She was a marketing person. And she wanted to get into Dr. Pepper, and I had some connections at Dr. Pepper. So he sang her praises. I met with her. She seemed very buttoned up, and I called my contact. Long story short, she went through about a 3-month interview process. She had a project she had to do as part of the interview process, did a lot of work, got the job, and it was a decent job. It paid about $1.50 a year, and it was good for her. She was excited. She got the job, but I never knew she got the job. She never called me to tell me she got the job or that she was off the market or anything. I didn't hear anything from her. And in about 6 months after we had our coffee, when she was still looking, I get a call from my contact at Dr. Pepper. And they said, hey, Don, what happened to so-and-so? And I said, I don't know. What, did you guys hire her? He said, well, yeah, we hired her. And, we were all excited about having her. She did so well on the interviews and everything, the tests. And, but after she got here, within about 6 weeks, she started calling in sick. And then she took short-term disability because she couldn't handle the stress of the position, she said. Well, you kind of should vet the stress thing out when you're going through the interview process. Long story short, she left the company within about 8 months. And because it didn't work out, it kind of burned my credibility within Dr. Pepper because I hadn't vetted her myself. I took someone else's word for it. So, you know, credibility and trust as part of your personal brand are very, very critical. You want to discover common interests when you're having a conversation at a networking event. You want to make a positive impression. You do not want to portray desperation. I don't know how many events I've been to where, hey, I'm looking for a job, I need a job. Hold that in. You don't want to come off desperate. You want to come off confident. You know, you want to come off not arrogant or cocky, but confident because you know your skills, you know what you can do, you know what you can bring to the table for a prospective employer. So that's the kind of image you want to portray when you're networking. You want to seek mutual benefit, and long-term, you want to build relationships. So how do you network? I said you had to prepare. You got to figure out what you want, who your target companies are, what positions you're looking for before you start to network. You want to have a system in place, a contact management system in place so that you can track the people in your network. I personally use Outlook, but there are several systems out there and they all work. You just got to use it and be religious about it. You want to focus on building the relationships that we've talked about. You don't want to be what we call a hit and run networker. You want to show up consistently, and you want to manage the quality of your network. This is not a quantitative exercise. It's a qualitative exercise. I'd rather you tell me you have 150 people in your network that know you, that you've had relationships with, either as co-workers or past employers or friends from church or something, but people that know you in your network. So you want quality people there. And you are also going to meet people during your networking experience. So you'll have, and I'll show you this at the end of the presentation, I kind of see it as like a target. You've got your core people that you really know well. You might have 1,000 connections, but they're going to be at different levels. And some of them are going to be weak connections because you just met them maybe last week. But over the next couple of months, those connections, if you're attending consistently, will strengthen and get stronger, and will move up the chain into stronger relationships. So you want to take advantage of both the strong and new ones, and you want to focus on those that you know when you meet them, who sound like they have connections or they understand, or you have a lot of similar interests, and you can help them as well. So Top Resume is a resource that I hit from time to time, and it gave these ideas or keys to networking: your style, know the rules, discuss culture and fit and your experience. Don't ask for a job, ask for advice. Use social media, network in your workplace if you're currently employed. Your past employees, peers, subordinates, superiors in your current job or past positions are excellent sources of networkers because they know you. Offer to help, volunteer. I know years ago when I was looking, I'd been out of work maybe 5 months. You know, when you're out of work, you got time, right? So I volunteered at church for a building project to build a meditation garden. And it was about a 3-month process where I was selling bricks with your name on it to raise funds. And then I managed the construction of it. And I got to interact with the staff at the church. So during all of that, I get a phone call from one of the ladies at church who was a staff member saying that I should meet her husband, that he may have a position. I met him, and long story short, I networked my way into a very good job because of that contact. So volunteering is also networking. I don't care. Networking is not limited just to job search groups. networking is going to trade associations, volunteering, your kids' soccer and baseball games and scouting events with other parents. All of that is networking. I tell people in my personal branding presentation and also in this presentation, when you're in job search mode, the minute you take a step outside of your front door in the morning, it's game on. In how you dress, how you walk, and who you interact with. I got job leads, believe it or not, from my gardener. You figure these guys that mow your lawn, that run around Plano, they mow a lot of lawns and they know a lot of people. So when I was looking at one point, I mentioned that to my yard guy, and he knew somebody at a very high level that had that worked at a company that I was trying to get into, and I was able to have a phone conversation with someone through my yard guy that I never would have had. So you just don't know where it's coming from. Offer to help, be consistent, and above all, follow up. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you're asked for something, provide it. You know, someone says, hey, shoot me a resume, make a note to yourself at the networking event, and when you get home, shoot them a resume. Offer LinkedIn connections if you meet some people at these events that you attend. And when you do a LinkedIn connection, don't just send the regular invite that LinkedIn provides. Write a quick note. So you figure they're meeting a lot of people just like you are. Set yourself apart. Let them know, hey, we met at this event. It was great talking to you about XYZ. I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn and maybe grab a cup of coffee next week if you have a second. So follow-up is critical. How to network, figure out what you want before okay, we already talked. I'm going backwards here. Okay, networking is conversational and networking is interviewing. People are interviewing. You're selling yourself when you're networking. It's not as aggressive as a flat out interview would be, but people are trying to understand who you are, what you're about, will you fit will my friend enjoy meeting you that works at company X over here? It's all conversational, and it is, I approached it the same as I approach interviewing. So you want to listen more than you talk. You want to find some common ground, whatever it is, either professionally or socially. If you get into what you do, don't inundate them with too much information, but when you're doing your 20 or 30-second pitch, focus on results, not what you're looking for. Focus on what you've delivered to your past employers. That tells them what you will deliver to your next employer. Highlight instances where you've overcome adversity when you're doing it, and be thankful for any insights and support you get from folks. Also, it's not on here, but don't badmouth past positions or employers. Let go of the fact that you are not working right now and why you left your last position. Be positive always. Don't ever be negative. Always be positive about everyone you've worked for and worked with. Don't try to monopolize the attention or the person's time. Many times at these networking events, people are trying to talk to as many people as possible. I was in an event 2 weeks ago, and I walked in, I knew absolutely nobody at this place. And within about 5 minutes, I had my typical club soda with lime. And I started talking to somebody. And by the time I stayed there about an hour and a half, and I had what I would call 7 or 8 good conversations with folks. And I'd added 3 new people that I really wanted to get into my network for future purposes, and at that event. And so try not to monopolize people's time. Get what you need, give them what they need. As long as it's going and everybody's enjoying each other's company, continue, but don't try to be the only one that they meet all night. Dress professionally, which we all know, and follow up, like I said. Now, there's 2 types of networking, passive and active. The passive networking is, an example would be, hey, you're at the grocery store on a Saturday, That's networking. If you meet people, strangers there, and you're talking to them, that you're still networking. And they're making judgments about you. You're being interviewed as much as you are in an active networking session, which is the photo below, which is a formal networking event that you might attend. I'll tell you a little story about the grocery thing. Years ago, I had a buddy who was trying to get into a large food company here in the area, and he'd been trying for about 6 months to get to see a specific individual at a pretty high level. And the gatekeeper, he couldn't get past the gatekeeper. He was very frustrated. He was a sharp guy, nice guy, but he couldn't get past the gatekeeper. So one Saturday, about noon, he's at Tom Thumb, which is a grocery store here in the Dallas area. And he's in line, and there's 3 or 4 people in front of him. A lady was immediately in front of him, and something was going on at the check stand, and he mumbled something under his breath, kind of funny, and she laughed, and they struck up a conversation. And inevitably, the question that always comes up, well, what do you do? And so he went into his 20-second pitch. And mind you, it was Saturday, but he was dressed appropriate. He wasn't in flip-flops and cargo shorts and a tank top. He had jeans and tennis shoes and a golf shirt on. He was casual, but he was well-dressed. And so he's talking to this lady, and he told her what he was trying to do. And this is where I'd really like to work, but I haven't been able to get to see the right person because of the gatekeeper, blah, blah, blah. And she says, well, I know some people that work there. Let me give them a call. Why don't you send me your resume? So he takes her information, shoots her resume when he gets home on Saturday. And Monday morning, he gets a phone call from the gatekeeper. And he got it because the lady in line that he was talking to happened to be the wife of the person that he'd been trying to get in to see for the last 6 months. So what I'm trying to get, now that is a rarity, but you just don't know where it's going to come from. So it's game on, 100%. You're networking as soon as you walk out the front door. I don't care if you're stopping at Starbucks before you go on your first call. You're networking at Starbucks when you're meeting people there. Okay, I want to talk about social media. When we started, I talked about you're a product. You got to think of yourself as a product. And networking is your form of advertising that product. So we're going to draw some similarities between your marketing yourself in social media and how companies do it too. So this is some data just on who, and you can guess who the big players are, right? Facebook, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Okay, those are the big players. And here's who businesses currently use. Wow, they use Facebook too. Go figure. So there must be something to this Facebook thing. Kicker is they're very disciplined on how and what they post on Facebook. You have to do the same. I gave this presentation at the University of Texas at El Paso about 2 years ago. And one of the things I had to drive home with these kids, they were graduate students that were getting out, but was to clean up their Facebook. It was full of them standing on tables on the weekend with their buddies, drinking tequila or whatever, and inappropriate comments about politics or religion or whatever. Stay away from politics, stay away from religion, stay away from compromising situations on Facebook. Because as soon as you get an interview, and if they get serious about you, the first place the HR person is going to go to is LinkedIn. The second place is going to be Facebook. Sometimes they'll go to Facebook first. So just be careful how you present yourself on social media. Social media is very, very powerful. That's why businesses use it, and that's why you should use it. But use it smart. Regarding job sites for networking, LinkedIn is obviously the big kahuna. I also use ladders just for leads, but LinkedIn really is where the action is. If you're looking for a position in a call center or something like that, then Monster or Indeed or something like that, Career Builder, any of those would also work. So the goals for social media for a company are to increase brand awareness. Know who they are, know what their products are, know what the culture of the company is. Same thing applies to you as a job seeker. Social media is going to determine your brand awareness, or the awareness that people have of your brand based on what you post on social media. So I just caution you, be careful, but use social media. As far as developing your job search plan, social media should have a definite part within networking and within branding. Some of the methods of branding, with COVID and Zoom meetings and all that, things have kind of changed over the last year or so. But I'm kind of old school, and I think most people are, in that 95% of professionals consider face-to-face a very important method of communication. The close rate to face-to-face meetings is 40% from a sales standpoint, and again, you're selling, right? 72% of people confirm that their impression is influenced by a handshake in the experience. I know when I was hiring, I hired a director of call center one time, and we had 2 candidates coming in. Immediately, I eliminated one of the candidates based, in my mind anyway, based on how he greeted me, how firm his handshake was. You don't want to break someone's hand, but you want to have a confident shake and make a positive impression. You want to have a smile when you come in and be relaxed and confident, excited about where you are. You don't want to come in there trembling in fear because you're scared of what's going to happen. So 72% confirmed that their impression is influenced by their experience in a handshake. Many of these meetings, face-to-face meetings, are so productive that companies that I used to work for, large companies, and I thought, gosh, we have a lot of meetings. How do I get my work done? And then I saw this: for every $1 that they invest in a meeting, they get a return of $12.50. So both in efficiency and more productivity and learning, etc. Yet 39% of people, 40% of your competitors, socialize more online than in person. So again, you've eliminated 40% of your competition here if you're networking in person. So we've talked, part of networking, obviously, you'll always get the question, so what do you do? So you have to have your pitch ready. I encourage you to write down your pitch, write it on paper, and memorize it. I also encourage you not to make it a minute or 2 minutes. Make your pitch about 20 seconds, 30 if you have to, but about 20 seconds should be enough for the elevator to get up to the 3rd floor, right? So be succinct and adjust to your audience when you develop your pitch for your networking. Have a generic, I had a fellow I was trying to help, and he had a title that he was going after. He had it on his business card, on all his social media, that he was a success driver. That was the job he was looking for. No, strategic success partner. And I was like, what is that? He had an IT background, and apparently that's a title that they use in the IT space. But me, I'm not from IT. So you need to have kind of a generic pitch that you can use, because you're going to be meeting people that you don't know who they are or what they do, and odds are they're not going to be specialists in the industry in IT or engineering or accounting or whatever that you're in. Odds are that they're going to be in something else. So you kind of have to not dumb it down, but just simplify it so that it's easy for them to understand and they can more easily help you down the road. Now, if you're speaking with someone who is in the same discipline as you, then it's fine to use the acronyms from that discipline. They will understand what you're talking about. Keep it short, sweet, and to the point. 20 to 30 seconds max. Now, after you've memorized it, throw it away, because you don't want to have, when they ask you what you do, you don't want to stand there with your arms on your side and recite it verbatim like a robot. You've got to adopt it. It's got to be yours. It's got to come from inside you. It's got to be natural. So once you've memorized it, you've got it down well, then you'll be able to deliver a pitch that is really you. It'll deliver the right information. It won't be too long or too short. It'll be natural. You'll be confident and you'll be relaxed when you do it. And I promise you that nobody wants to stand there and listen to a 1 or 2 minute pitch that is robotic. They want a 20, get to the point quick, tell me what you're about, what do you do? Oh, I understand. And if they need more information, they will ask that, and the conversation will evolve like it should. So it'll encourage questions. You know, it's the same methodology you use with a resume. You want to give them enough to pique their interest. If they have, you want to create questions so that the conversation and the dialogue evolves. Some of the pitfalls in networking that you need to be aware of that could trip you up is your personal brand. And you know, or people close to you know what your personal brand is. You may or may not have to adjust. So I encourage you to talk to people that know you really well. Your spouse is a great source, but have them not hold back. Tell them you want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly about what their impression of you is. What do people think of me as an individual? My brand. Give me some adjectives. Body language is critical. If you're fidgeting, clicking a pen, playing with your hair, that's not good. Body language is important in networking, interviewing, everything. Articulate concepts succinctly and quickly. Get to the point. You run the risk, because of social media, of your private info being out there. So just know that use social media, like I said, judiciously, but carefully. Show up consistently. We've talked about that. Be prepared. Observe etiquette. If you're at an event and there's alcohol, for me, it's easy. I don't drink. But I've been at events where you can literally hear the noise go up over a 2 or 3 hour period. And it's always the same people that are imbibing too much, getting loud and sloppy and obnoxious. And that is their brand. They're the people that you do not want to be affiliated with, right? Okay. And then finally, talking. Don't talk too much. In all cases, you want a conversation to be 50-50 as much as possible. You want to allow questions, leave room for questions. Make a statement that may cause some curiosity on the part of the person you're speaking with. Now, some of the tools that you're going to need in your networking toolbox, number one is preparation, a pitch, a 20-second pitch. You're going to need business cards. If you're in job search and in transition, you carry business cards with you 100% of the time. I even take business cards with me to the gym because part of my network is the gym. Okay, and on business cards, I do a whole section on business cards and my personal branding thing. But there's a purpose for a business card. It's your leave behind. It's how they are to contact you when you're at a networking event. You don't want to go to a networking event and just hand out cards. You want to be judicious about who you hand your cards to. It's got to be a good contact. And your cards, when you develop them, they need to be simple. You don't need a lot of fancy graphics. I say avoid putting your picture on a card unless you're a model or in the entertainment industry in some way. But otherwise, don't put your picture on there. Just there's some critical elements. It's your name, the position or level of, product manager, engineer, IT consultant, whatever it is up there. It's okay to put a little tagline if you have a cute tagline. Other than that, you want your LinkedIn connection, your phone number, one phone number, not 3 or 4, one phone number, because I'll tell you what, if I'm an HR person and I call that first number out of the 3 and you don't answer, I'm moving on to the next candidate. So one phone number, your LinkedIn, your email, and if you have a website or something like that, do that. The city that you live in, but not your entire address. And leave the card stock flat paper. Leave the back blank so you can write notes on the back. A lot of people do that. They use the back for notes. Always have a pen with you so you can write and take notes. Have a contact management system and a calendar that you can manage all your stuff with. It's critical that you do that so that you can do follow-ups like you need to do for networking. Use your cell phone in front of people. I'm not saying talking on it, but I'm saying you meet someone at a networking event. Hey, let's meet for coffee. I'll send you my contact information. If you have a flip phone says old, right? Get a smartphone. I still see people out there with flip phones, and you need to understand smartphones. It says if you're still on a flip phone, the message it's sending is out of step with current technology. That's what it says. And then you want to set goals for yourself. In my case, I set a goal of 25 new contacts a week. That was easy. And I encourage you to do the same. 25 quality contacts. That's not only 5 a day. You should be able to do that. And then follow up on all commitments. Now here's something I did with my network that I'm going to share with you. Earlier, I talked about having close relationships with people in my network. And as you network with people, you're going to meet people that'll be like on the outer white or outer black rim. But as you progress towards the center, that's going to be your core. That's probably about 25 people that know you very well. Past employers, peers, very close friends, family, people like that. And then the next level is people that know you well, probably more from a professional or a volunteer standpoint, but that see you pretty regularly. That might be church people or whatever. And then the outer ring is the blue ring, and those are the folks that you maybe just met within the last month or so, but they have the potential for being very, very productive contacts for your network. Qualitatively, you in your mind have decided that, hey, this is someone that I want to get in my network. I want to interact with them again and more. And you know what? After I get a job, I want to stay connected to that individual. But I don't know them well. They don't know me well. So they're on the outer ring right now. Over time, as you continue to foster that relationship, they could move into the red ring potentially. So the reason I did this was I had immediately put out the word that I was in job search mode to everybody I knew. And then about 4 months later, I was at the gym, and one of my contacts was a VP with Adidas. And he and I were real close. We cycled together and everything. And his comment was, well, I didn't know. I thought you found a job. I hadn't heard anything more since we connected last time. I said, nah, I hadn't. So it dawned on me that you've got to keep your network up to speed as to where you are. So what I did was about every 6 weeks while I was in transition, I would send out an email to these 25 folks. And it was just a simple email. Hey, just touching base. I'm still letting them know that you were still in transition. You've had these 3 interviews and gone to some networking events, and you were hoping to hear back from this company soon, but you never know. And then I also threw in a little bit of either a joke or a cartoon or a comment about what the job and employment market was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Just some information or something of a new to keep so that they will read the email, right? I did the same thing for the red level, and I did that every 8 to 10 weeks. And then on the people that I didn't quite know well enough, I did them every 12 weeks. But doing that allowed people to know where you were. Many of my contacts were professional contacts that were outside of the area, so I didn't see them regularly. So sending an email to those folks was very, very productive. So that's a little trick of the trade that I used when I was networking aggressively. Now, who do you network with? Everybody, from the barista at Starbucks to the yard guy to consultants. Depending on the type of position you're looking for, I see CPAs, attorneys, and bankers as a good place to network and people to network with. They know companies, they know owners of companies, they know CEOs, and they can be your advocate. Professional groups, friends, competitors from past positions you've had. Competitors love to hire from their other competitors. So competitors that you've met would be a good place to network. Church contacts, alumni groups, civic groups, military. If you're a veteran, there's veteran groups out there that are very active. Consultants are another great place to network. Consultants know a lot of CEOs and HR people at companies. They know a lot of companies that are hiring and laying off. So consultants are good people to network with. Service providers, vendors. So all these are folks that you can network with. Here's some of the groups that you can source out to network with: trade and industry associations, church groups, social events, civic groups, volunteer organizations, your country club if you're a country club person, small business owners. There's small business groups, and don't poo-poo small businesses. If you came from a large corporate background like I did, the best job I had after 30 years with Fortune 500 companies was with a company that sold $100 million a year. And it was a great job and it paid great. So look at all levels, especially as you get older. Think about it. As an employer, put yourself in the employer's shoes. As an employer for a large company, you can get someone out of MBA school, in their mid-20s, to do a job that you're probably doing or did for a lot less than what you were being paid. A smaller company, on the other hand, can't hire a VP of sales and a VP of marketing and a VP of operations and a VP of finance and blah, blah, blah. But they can hire one individual at a high level to kind of oversee all those functions. And they do that. So small companies, as you get older, are great target areas for you. Now, here's some places in the Dallas area that I've networked at, and I network at fairly consistently. Well, COVID kind of slowed things down, but we're getting back into it. But SMU, as an example, does a thing called Southwest Venture Forum. Now, some of these do have fees attached to them. The SMU thing, you pay for your breakfast. Dallas Business Journal, they have events that they put out. And I encourage you to get a subscription to the Dallas Business Journal. That's about $80, $90 a year. It's a great publication, keeps you in step with what's going on in the area, what companies are moving here. The Book of Lists, you get that from them once a year. It's a great publication that helps you with job search, gives you information you can slice and dice 100 ways. So all of these are potential areas, and there's probably 100 more that you could go to. These are just the ones that I kind of focused on. Now, time. Networking takes time. So when I started my networking effort, I thought, okay, I'm going to spend 75% of my time networking, since 75% of the jobs were found networking. That's impossible to do. Okay. So what I did, and it's impossible because there's only 24 hours in a day, and you got to sleep and you got to do some other stuff too. So I thought, okay, what is important during transition? So networking obviously is important. Family, your family's going through the transition pains just like you are. So you need to block out time to spend with family. I don't care if it's going on a dog walk or playing games after dinner or going to your kids' soccer game or whatever, but spend good quality family time every day. Travel. Travel, I call that windshield time. That's going from networking meeting to networking meeting, okay? So you have to allocate for that. Desk, that's the time I allocated to work online and on my resume and all that kind of stuff. That's when I was sitting at and doing follow-ups, anything to do with your computer or any of that stuff. Anytime you put your hands on a keyboard, that's desk time. So I allocated about 12% of my time for desk. Then you got to sleep. Okay, so I put in that they recommend 6 to 8 hours sleep a night. So I blocked it in at 7 hours. So that represents 7 hours of sleep. And then I'm real big on exercise. If you don't exercise, you need to. And it doesn't mean you got to go run a marathon, but walk for an hour a day, do something. Exercise gets the endorphins going. It keeps you positive. It's healthy, so it's good for you physically, but it also keeps that space between your ears in the right place. It keeps you confident and makes you happy. Exercise is a good thing, and it should be part of your job search strategy. Here's how those percentages shook out in actual hours. Okay, there's 24 hours in a day. So, and these are just averages. It doesn't mean that you have to network exactly 7 hours. There were some days that I networked 4 hours and I spent more time on doing desk work or exercising or whatever. Sometimes it was sleep. So these are just guides. They're just general guides for how much you would want to spend on average. Okay, so networking is 7 hours, desk work 3 hours, exercise 2, family 3, sleep 7, and travel 2. Now, when I did job search, it wasn't a 8 to 5 job. It was a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. I work harder at job search when I was in job search mode than I did when I was working. You have to put in the time to get the results. So if I'm doing 3 hours of desk work a day, that's 21 hours of desk a week. That should be plenty of time to get all your resumes updated and all that kind of stuff. So you want to push any extra hours that you have, you want to push them into that networking zone. Okay, the results after all this, all the networking events and all the preparation and everything you have is referrals and the inside track. Most positions, as you've heard before, I'm sure, are not posted. You want to hear about those positions. You want to know who's retiring in a position that you would like to have. So referrals are key to making that happen and to getting you in on the inside track. It also helps you, again, with information, keeping you up with the trends so you can speak intelligently about trends as you're moving through interviewing and networking. Additional potential contacts. You're going to develop in networking some new friendships. I know I have people that I've met networking that we never really helped each other find a job, but they're great people. They're in great positions. They're good quality contacts. And now they're friends. We do stuff socially together. Those are the kind of folks you want. It's a good source of accountability partners. You all know what accountability partners, what that concept's all about. It helps keep you disciplined and on track for your entire job search. Most importantly, your networking effort generates your army of advocates, and that army is fighting for you. So how effective? It's game on, like I said, when you get out there and you start networking effectively. So enjoy networking, folks. It's a lot of fun once you get into it. It's easy to do once you get into it, but it's starting for some folks, it's kind of uneasy. But I promise you, once you've done it, regularly and consistently, you'll get better at it, more comfortable with it, and much more confident about what you're trying to communicate and who you communicate it to. So with that, I'm done. I thank you, Jeff. I don't know what I do on time.
Yep, Don, no, doing. So that is Don's presentation. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to let me know, ask a question. We can get it answered for you. Any questions or comments?
This is Joe Scarf. I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it.
Good, Joe, thank you very much. I mean, you know, networking is network. I mean, it's basically the same thing. It's getting out and talking to people. You know, everybody, every time we talk about this, all the speakers on networking, they all have their own little unique, here's what they do, here's what they like to do. So hopefully you've picked up one or two things, and that's what you'll carry on the next couple of weeks.
And you know, something, I am always networking. I'm just a networking guy. It's just what I do. I remember networking at, oh my God, what's the name of that restaurant? I would sit at the bar and I had a motorcycle helmet, which always induced conversations with strangers. And I would prop my helmet out there to have conversations. And one day I'm talking to a couple of nurses who were like two chairs down from me. And this guy's listening to me when I asked these two nurses, what are they studying for? And I said, oh, I just finished doing that. I studied and got my PMP. And this other guy around the corner from the bar, he started talking to me about joining him as a project manager for construction. So, I mean, networking works.
It does. You just have to be willing to get out there and be social and talk to people. I mean, that's what it takes.
Exactly right.
That's what it
They were
takes.
talking about CRMs that you can use to monitor your job search. I've heard of someone called Jibber Jobber. Has anybody heard of that, or anybody used that? It's by this guy named Jason Alba, who's written a lot of books.
Nope, nobody.
Sure, are there any
I'm
specific
sure if you
CRMs
go to Google, I'm sure if you go to Google, you'll be able to find some good reviews or stuff on it. All right. Anything else? Any other comments anybody else has?
Great presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, well, let me just share a few more things and we will get out of here for today. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Career FW Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting, 9:30 Central Time tomorrow morning. We're going to have open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. So bring your questions. We'll open it up to the group, and anybody's willing. You know, we want people to participate and share and give their suggestions and things they've worked on in the past. So please come join us tomorrow morning at 9:30. Next week, next Tuesday for LinkedIn Tuesdays, Terry Sullivan will be with us to talk about how to create a LinkedIn brand that tells your key contacts who you are, what you do, and how you can help. The event will not be recorded, so if you want to watch Terry, you do need to watch him live next Tuesday at 1. Next Wednesday, join us for an actual practice interview. If you'd like to be interviewed, just reach out to dallaspitcrew.com and you get all the information so you can sign up on how you can get an interview. And then next Thursday, being the third Thursday of the month, we're going to talk all about effective resumes. So come join us and we'll share our template and we'll share just some basic things that we think you need to do for your basic resume. If you'd like to join the Career DFW or Career USA LinkedIn groups, we have one of each. On the Career DFW LinkedIn group, there's over 13,900 members. You do not need to be part, you do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join that group. We just happen to start both groups at the same time we started the websites. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page, and in a couple hours, I'll have it uploaded to the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist, and then you can find one of the many playlists. We've got over 390 videos there. So if you will, click if you want resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn, or networking, and then down below, don't click on the video screen, but down below we see that red arrow, click on view full playlist. And then up will come a list of all the different titles and speakers that talked about, and you can go find whichever event you'd like to go back and watch. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, please send an email to Career USA, the +, subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the title of the day, the topic of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link, so that way you can join us live on Zoom. Please note, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. All of our speakers are volunteers. Everything I've done over the last 13, 14 years has been as a volunteer. I'm just here to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow morning. If not, we'll see you one day next week.
Bye, everybody.